Well, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be about something that I've been wanting to test for quite a while now. I'm sure most of y'all are probably aware of these Hornady quick change die bushings, which are, pretty cool because you can take any old standard rock chucker style press or any press that uses regular old 7/8 thread end dies and convert it to be able to quickly change dies in and out. And, it seems like a great idea and a great concept and, a little bit of a time saver here and there. But the only thing I've always wondered is how much of an effect does it have on your brass when you do that? There's kind of an ideology floating around out there that using this system may actually improve the concentricity and such of your brass because it allows for the die to maybe just slightly float around in the press a little bit. In my mind, on the flip side of that same coin, I would think that if these things are not machined really, really well, that they could induce run out. They're not all that expensive, and it's kind of hard to find super precise machined items at the price point that these things come in at. So anyway, the only way I know to do is test it. So I've got 40 pieces of once fired Lapua 223 brass here, and I've got them, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I've kind of got them labeled. All the 20 pieces up top here are going to be resized just conventionally with the die threaded into the press. These bottom 20, I'm going to convert my press over to accept the Hornady bushing system, and then we're going to size these. And we're going to take measurements on shoulder bump as well as concentricity measurements, sort of like the run out on the neck and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's get cracking. All right, just for kicks, I am going to knock all the primers out of the brass and take a measurement on the where the head spacing is currently before we resize it. Just to just to try to make sure that the brass is reasonably consistent and not all over the place. I don't want to start out with, let's get my trash can under here. I don't want the cases to be, which I don't think they will be, but way off. But I don't think it'd be good for the test if your brass from the get-go already had, several thousandths variance in head spacing before you even resize them. So anyway, I'm going to go through here and just decap all these, and then get a measurement on the current head spacing before we start lubing them and resizing them. So anyway, I'll check back in with you here in a second. Okay, here we go. I've got them all deprimed. So, and I got my calipers zeroed with the proper headspace gauge in here. Let's just see where we're at here. I'm just going to zero that out. All right, since that's the one we started with. Well, that's a good sign. Only a half off. Thousandth off. It's pretty much dead on. All right, well, anyway, I'm going to go through here and measure all these just to make sure they're not all over the place, which they shouldn't be. And I'll check back with you if anything eventful happens. Okay, so I went through all this brass that that was gave to me, that was once fired Lapua, and I hand sorted through enough of it to where there was no more than a 0.5 thousandths variance in any of this. I went through and measured every, well, you know, that is indexing, you know, zeroing the calipers off this case here. All the rest of these are no more than a 0.5 thousandths away from this one. And most of them were, a few of them were on the plus side, and a few of them might be on the minus side. But anyway, we're starting with pretty darn consistent brass before we even begin resizing. So I'm going to go ahead and get some lube on these things, and we'll start resizing with the just standard threads for now, and then we'll convert over to the lock and load. All right, I'm gonna lube these things up and get to sizing. I like that lanolin spray lube, and I have this old big Tupperware tote that I'll just spray on them, spray the lube on them, and shake it around. This is that Frankfurt Arsenal stuff, but I don't even know if it's still that or not. I think I started mixing up my own a while back, and I think I just reused this bottle. All right, let's shake this up and get to resizing. Okay, so I just zeroed my calipers on one of these cases. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, you can. So let's size these. I also lubed the inside of the necks with some Imperial sizing wax. All right, and we're at exactly 2 thousandths bump, so that's good. That's where I wanted to be. I'm gonna try to size whenever I swap out for the lock and load bushing. I'm gonna try to make sure we're sizing about the same amount. All right, that's that. Let's take a few measurements. All right, to the best of my abilities, I'm gonna try to keep everything in the camera here. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and re-zero out my calipers. That way I'm just going off of a, going off of a zero. And I'm going to, so we got a 1.4585. Put him back over here. And there's another 1.4585. All right, I'm gonna go through here and measure all these, and I'll check back in with you. There's another 458.5, so that's good. All right, yeah, I'm gonna stop the video just so it don't get super long. Okay, so this is kind of what I was afraid of. Well, I had really, really good results. I had so many that were 1.4585 that I wound up just copying that number so I could just paste it. And as you can see there, let me zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, so my extreme spread was a 0.5 thousandth. Standard deviation of like 0.00019 thousandths of an inch. So yeah, the highest one was 459 even, and the lowest one was 458.5. Oh gosh. What's going to really suck is if this press is just really, really consistent and accurate when threading in dies like this. And am I going to want to change it over to the lock and load if you get results this good? So I'm going to go ahead and measure some, or take some concentricity measurements just to see what that is. Because, gosh, I might be in a little bit of a conundrum here as to whether or not I even want to mess with the thing. So let me get my concentricity gauge out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are, the last one. I think this is one of the worst ones too. So we're on 0, pretty good there. I had it. I must have, when I moved the gauge, I probably bumped it. Yeah, there we are at the end of the. So there's 1, and I'm gonna call that 2. Yep. And there it goes. Yep, back up to. Yep, so that's 2. And I already entered that over here on my spreadsheet. So if I can get everything situated here. So here's where we're at currently. I rearranged my spreadsheet up here a little bit just to make it a little easier to keep track of everything. Everything on this side is for the thread end die, and everything over here will be for the lock and load. So I had an average of 1.5 thousandths pretty much on the concentricity. An extreme spread of 2.5. The highest one was 3. The lowest one was only 0.5. Standard deviation of 0.697 thousandths of an inch. Okay, now, do I want to do this? I guess I do. That's the whole point of making this video, wasn't it? Well, let's screw this big old bushing out. I'll be right back. All right, here we go. Gosh, y'all, about feel like a dummy for taking this thing out, seeing what good results I got with my with just threaded in. But it should go back, right? I sure hope y'all like and subscribe to my channel and everything on this video. You just saw me measure 20 pieces of brass and get no more than a 0.5 thousandths variance in my shoulder bump, and here I am taking my press apart. But I would genuinely appreciate a subscribe or a like. How do I want to tighten this down? I guess I could use this old die here I got to. I think that's pretty good. Now it'd be tricky to ever get that thing back out. Yeah, I kind of wish they did send some kind of wrench or something with that, but all right. Well, let's get my die converted. Okay, got my die in its little die bushing here. Seems to be going in just fine. I'm going to take one of these other pieces that I have over here just to get my die set up by. What did I do with my dial calipers? There they go. So anyway, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get my die set up where it's only bumping, approximately 2 thousandths or so. And then I'll check back with you when we start resizing the next 20 pieces. Okay, so I just sized the first one, and I'm at 458.5 to 459, which is about right where I was with the other ones. I kind of got lucky on this die setting here. Let's see if this one's 459.5. 459. I'm right there at it. You know what? That's probably close enough that, I mean, we're within a 0.5 thousandths. I think that's close enough to say it's probably good. I mean, I could maybe adjust it just a little bit. All right, what the heck, I will. Make sure I didn't go too much. So we're looking for 458.5. Right, there we go. So that should be all over where we were with all the rest of them. So I'm just gonna dump those back in there. Let me get all these other ones in my big Tupperware thing over here and get them lubed up, and we'll size them. All right, here we go. All right, so I got the camera zoomed out good here. Let's see where we're at. .459. That's number 1. I will go 1.457.5. I mean, that's what I got, so. $458.5. All right, got them all measured here. Looks like the extreme spread was 2 thousandths. And yeah, the high was 459.5, and the low was 95, and the low was 75. So yeah, that was definitely a lot worse than the half thousandth over here on the thread end, wasn't it? Now, could that have been the brass? Yes. Very likely could have been the brass, so hard to say on that. Well, let's check the concentricity now, because if anything, that's kind of where you would think the Hornady bushing system would improve. You know, your brass. So let's see. We'll check a few here and. All right, y'all. I'm getting readings so bad here that I had to readjust my gauge. This one here's got 11 thousandths. So you can see right there it is definitely past 11, more like about 11 and a half, I would say. I'm going to keep rolling it down here. And there it is. There it is, going to almost 0. Now I'll roll it back up there. You can see what I'm doing here. Oh wait, that case is dented. I just saw that. Okay, I'm gonna have to take that one off of my spreadsheet. I had another one that was really bad up here too. It was number the 6th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. Yeah, that one had a dent in the case too. Well, crap. Alright, so here's what I did on the dented case issue. These guides are adjustable, so I just adjusted this one way on in to where it doesn't get affected by the dent when it rolls around there. And I went through and remeasured them all. And, well, since I adjusted my concentricity gauge, I went ahead and remeasured all of these, and I made a separate row over here in my or a separate column on my spreadsheet. This was the first time I did it, and then this was the second time. So it's kind of cool to go through there and see the difference. I only had a 0.5 thousandths difference in my reading there and a 0.5 thousandths there. A lot of them wound up being the same. Let's see. This would tell you the difference right here, I guess. I averaged, well, that's kind of not really relevant there, I don't guess. But the extreme spread, I got 2 thousandths of an inch on the first go through, and then the second time around I got 1.5 thousandths. So I mean, I was within a 0.5 thousandth. But over here on the Hornady side, you can see that it's about the same. Standard deviation was actually a little bit lower. Which is interesting, even though it's I thought the other side was actually a little bit better. So that's pretty cool. Seems like yeah. So it looks like concentricity wise, there was no loss with going to the lock and load bushings, and there could potentially be a little bit of gain there. The extreme spread was still the same. Yeah, 1.5 as compared to 1.5 there. Kind of got to ignore this one now just because I want to kind of gray it out, because it was measured. There we go. Because it was measured, you know, when the concentricity gauge was set differently. So this one and this one is kind of the little more apples to apples comparison. So yeah, the extreme spread was still 1.5. The high was 2 thousandths a run out. The low was only a 0.5 thousandths a run out on both of them. It's just the Hornady edged it out in standard deviation a little bit, if that means anything to you. So not really that big of a deal. But I wonder how many. Yeah, it just consistently had a few more 2s there, whereas this one had consistently, well, it still had a pretty good run of 2 thousandths a run out there too. Yeah, I don't know if there's much to be said on the concentricity side there out of these two 20 pieces, other than the standard deviation was just a little bit better. Yeah. Anyway, but on the shoulder bump side of things, it appears as though threading in the die gave us much better results. Now again, this was only 20 pieces, but as you can see, I mean, I only had an extreme spread of a 0.5 thousandth on those, and I had a 2 thousandths one there. Let's see, the high was a 59.5. Where is my 59.5? 59. There it is. Yeah, looks like threading them beat it in every way there. So I don't know, y'all. I guess you'll have to make the decision for yourself on this. I don't really see that there was much of a. If you're going to the lock and load bushing thinking you're going to gain something, as in consistency or shoulder bump or concentricity, I don't believe there's really that much of a gain to be had there. That being said, I don't think you're going to lose anything on the concentricity, but according to my tests, there is a chance you might be giving up a little bit of something on the shoulder bump consistency. Now I'm tempted to maybe do 10 more or something like that and just see what happens there. But of course I'll have to set my dies up all over again and take the lock and load bushing thing out. What the heck, I might do it. Okay, stand by. All right, so I just finished doing 17 more pieces while I have my lock and load set up still in the press. And I have an additional 17 that I'm going to do after I thread the original press bushing back in. So let me get all this stuff undone here. It'll be interesting to see how well this goes back to 0. Now the tricky thing will be trying to figure out how to get this out of here. I hope this works. Yes. Good deal. Okay, I'm gonna get everything set back up here, and I'll check back in. And now, of course, I gotta reset my die. Of course, I've got this right in the way of the camera. So there it is, about touching. Back it off just a little bit. That's usually about where this one likes to be. And I'm going to try to get it. I've got a few extra pieces over here that I'm going to use just to test run my die setting. Alright, let's see where that winds up putting me. I've got three pieces here I can use for that. Seems like if you stand those things up, they'll dry a little bit quicker. All right. Let's see where we're at here. All right, so we're on 460. I need to go down just a little bit more to try to get to my original 458.5. So we're at 459, getting awful close. That one could have just been one that was not going to size as much anyway. I might make one little small adjustment here. Probably not enough to really do anything, but we shall see. Okay, I'm gonna get the brass lubed up here and get the sizing. Okay, here we go. We're at the end of the road, finally, this very long road. So, yeah, let's get to the results here. All right, the light gray highlighted areas are those additional 17 rounds that I did after the the first 20. So so what I'm going to do here is, so if you remember when I finished the lock and load portion of the test, I was going to do another 17. So without making any changes to anything, I just went ahead and did those 17. And right here are the results for the Hornady. So after I took all my measurements there, I had to take the lock and load, bushings back out of the press, reinstall the original press bushing, readjust the die, all that kind of stuff. And then I came back over here to the thread end portion, and there's the 17 I did here. I didn't feel like it was fair to just lump those into the first 20 because of all the changes that I made to everything on the press and the die. But what we'll do, just for kicks and giggles, I'll copy these, and I'm going to paste them right here so you can now see what it would have been like had I just done them all together. I tried setting the die as close as I could get it to get the same results from the initial 20, but you know how that goes. So anyway, after adding the additional 17, my extreme spread went from a half thou to 1.5 thou. So I can undo what I just did there, and you can see there's back to the first 20, and there's the first 20 plus the 17, the additional 17. So, gosh, y'all, I don't know if just doing the additional 17 showed you the whole picture, or if my press was just like super duper happy and I messed it up from making the changes. I don't know. But let's get to comparing them here. The extreme spread wound up being the same between the on the shoulder bump after all is said and done, and a total of 37 pieces. The standard deviation, the thread end still did beat out the lock and load just a little bit. But now let's get into the concentricity side of things. On the thread end die, I had an extreme spread concentricity wise of 2 3/4 thousandths. On the Hornady, it was 1,000th less. So yeah, the worst one on the thread end was 3 thousandths. The worst one on the Hornady was 2, obviously, and the best I got was about 1/4 thou. If the needle on the dial indicator was just barely wiggling, I just called that 1/4. So, and the standard deviation on the Hornady lock and load beat out the traditional threading it in as well. So, all that being said, I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments below which one you think won out. Was there a difference? Was there not really a difference? Certainly when you come over here and you only go off those initial 20, one would think that was pretty impressive, just screwing in your die. But then like I said, when you add an additional 17 to it, it made it a little worse. And even if you didn't clump it in with this side, this was just those 17 right here in this second column. So it was the additional 17 that I picked up my 1.5 thousandths spread on the shoulder bump. So, and if you notice, it was right on par. Like those 17 were right on par with the whole 37 on the Hornady. So anyway, these are my findings. I don't know take it with a grain of salt. I tried giving it as fair of a shot as I could. So I don't think I'd be too nervous about using the lock and load bushing. I don't think you're really giving up anything. If anything, you might be picking up just a little bit on the concentricity. Who knows? Well, but anyway, thank you guys again for watching. Sorry for the really long video. This one was tough to record everything and keep it a short video. So I appreciate you staying with me this far if you did. And as always, I'd appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel if you found any of this kind of stuff helpful. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Y'all take care.